I walked into town with small hope. I need a roof, I said. Elias Boone smiled wide. I can help, he said. Old stable behind the church. 3 cents only. I weighed the coins in my hand. 3 cents buys peace? I asked. He laughed and tapped my palm. Peace is cheap today, he said. The clerk wrote my name slow. Luke Mercer, he said. My chest felt light, almost safe. I nodded and paid the money. I just want quiet, I said. A place for my horse. Elias leaned close to me. Then this is your home, he said. Dusty but strong. Good bones. I like the sound of home. I like the word promise. The sun hit hard on Maine. Show me the key, I said. He pressed old iron into my hand. Don't visit at night, he added. I frowned. Why not at night? He shrugged. Old wood talks. Wind cries. I led my horse down the road. The church bell rang once. Hear that? I asked him. He tossed his head and snorted. We will rest soon, I said. My boots crushed dry grass. The sky turned bronze and red. Smoke from cook fires drifted. It smelled like home and memory. I passed the broken graveyard fence. No more war, I whispered. No more hurt. No more fear. The stable waited behind the church. It slouched like a tired man. Planks leaned. Nails showed. Paint peeled. I touched the door with care. The wood felt rough and warm. You and me, friend, I said. My horse bumped the trough gently. Water later, I told him. The lock scraped when I turned it. The hinges cried like a baby. I stepped inside and breathed in. The air hit me like blood. What is that? I asked. My voice sounded small and thin. I smelled rain, smoke, and silence. A rope hung from a beam. It turned slow in the dusk. My heart went heavy and slow. Hello? I called into the dark. Leaves scratched the roof like claws. Anyone here? I asked again. The rope creaked like a swing. I took one more step forward. My boot slid in something wet. I looked down and saw mud. Just mud, I told myself. But the smell said otherwise. My hands shook without stopping. I need light, I whispered. I struck a match with care. The flame shook and danced fast. Orange spread across the stall walls. Shadows grew long like fingers. Then I saw her hanging there. A young Apache woman swayed. Her hair covered one eye. The other stared straight at me. I dropped the match and gasped. The flame died on the dirt. No, I said once, then twice. My knees gave up under me. I crawled backward on the straw. The rope sang above my head. I didn't know, I said. I paid for peace, not this. My horse cried outside the door. I could not move at all. Who did this to you? I asked. My breath scraped in my throat. I will get help, I said. My palm slid on the floor. Splinters bit like small teeth. The bracelet on her wrist flashed. Silver caught the last blue light. It looked new, not simple. A tiny mark shone on it. I thought it looked like a letter. B, I said, or maybe Boone. My mouth tasted like smoke. Elias lied to me, I said. He knew. He must have known. The word truth rattled in my head. So did home, money, and justice. I stood and shook my legs. I am sorry, I told her. I will not leave you here. The church bell rang again somewhere. I counted beats while I breathed. 1 for blood, I said low. 2 for fear, 3 for courage. My voice sounded like a stranger. I will come back with help. I stepped out into the night. The sky had turned dark purple. Wind pushed sand across the yard. My horse stamped and pulled hard. Easy, I said, touching his neck. I saw a ghost, I told him. But she was real. She was hurt. The word forgive burned in my chest. I will not forget, I said. I will bring her truth soon. I walked back to town alone. Lamps glowed behind thin curtains. Laughter leaked from the saloon porch. I went to Elias right away. He stood outside like a king. Back already? He said, smiling thin. How is your new home? I stared at him without speaking. He lifted both hands, still smiling. Say something, friend, he said softly. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. There was a body, I said. His smile froze hard and sharp. Speak plain, he said, eyes narrow. You found what? I swallowed and formed the words, slowly. I couldn't breathe, I told my horse. I ran. Cold rain pressed the yard flat and gray. I heard the rope creak inside my head. I didn't do this, I told myself again. But her eyes stayed open in my mind. They watched me like moons in a well. I will look again, I whispered to fear. I lifted the latch and stepped inside slow. The lantern hissed. The beam groaned like pain. "I am sorry," I said to the air. I paid 3 cents. I did not know. A silver bracelet shone beneath her sleeve. I touched the cold ring and read marks. "Boone," I said. "The town man's name." "I will bring someone," I said to her. I ran to the road and yelled loud, "Sheriff! Sheriff Dade! Come right now!" Dade came from the office porch, frowning. "What's your noise?" he asked without care. "A girl hangs in my stable," I said. He did not flinch. "Which one, Mercer?" "The church stable," I said. "The one behind?" "Fine," he said. "Let us end this." We walked back through light rain and mud. He stepped in and stared for a while. He looked, then rubbed his eyes once. His face stayed blank like a door. I felt fear, but I stayed still. He sighed like a man counting money. "Keep quiet," he said. "Old case, old mess. Who is she?" I asked in a whisper. "Not my work now," he said and shrugged. "It is your town," I said, voice hard. "You bought a problem for 3 cents, he said. "I bought a roof," I said, feeling sick. He pointed at the bracelet with his chin. "Trinket," he said. "She liked shiny things. She wore a mark," I said. "Boone's mark." Dade lifted one brow and looked bored. "Let the past rest," he said. "Bury it." "I will not bury a lie," I said back. "You want peace?" he asked. "Keep still. I want truth," I said. "She deserves truth." He left without writing a single word. I stood with the girl in heavy guilt. "I will put you down," I whispered near. "I will not leave you like this." My hands worked slow with knife and stool. I cut the rope and held her weight. My knees shook under that final silence. "I am sorry," I said and cried. I wrapped her in a blanket from home. I dug a grave behind the stable fence. I prayed, though my faith felt broken thin. "Lord, help her cross the river," I said. "Forgive me for being late and blind." I set the bracelet on the gravestone. Then I changed my mind and kept it. "I will show this to the town," I said. "Your name will not be lost," I promised. I sat by the wall and held whiskey. Why me? I asked the small room. I had no money. "Only courage," I lied. Sleep took me near the door at last. I dreamed water ran under my bed. She walked the shallows, eyes bright as flint. She watched me and did not speak. Her voice came soft like night rain. "You paid for this," she said without hate. "I paid for a home," I told her. "You paid for my silence," she answered. Her words cut clean as a new knife. "Tell me your name," I begged the dream. "My name is Naomi," she said like wind. "I will carry you home," I said. She shook her head and looked past me. "The town owes truth," she said. "Not flowers." I woke with a choke and burning chest. I reached for the blanket and went still. Cold metal lay warm against my skin. The bracelet rested there on my chest. I stared and could not think or move. I had left it on the grave. The beam creaked once like a slow door. "I hear you," I whispered into the dark. "I will not run," I said to fear. I slid the bracelet onto my wrist. "It stays with me," I said, still shaking. I waited for dawn like a long trial. When light came, I saddled my horse. "I go to Boone," I told myself. I ask about marks. I ask truth. I stopped at the grave and bowed low. "Naomi," I said, "help me be brave." I touched the wet soil and felt calm. "I will pay more than 3 cents," I said. "I will pay with courage, voice, and time." I faced the road that led to town. The bracelet burned like a small fire. Her eyes stayed with me as I walked. They did not accuse now. They guided. I took a breath and kept walking. I breathed. I called the stable my home briefly. I swept the floor in silence. Dust rose and stung my eyes. Rain tapped the roof like nails. My horse snorted outside and waited. The broom struck a loose plank. The wood clicked against a hidden nail. I knelt and slipped my knife. Fear slid through me like ice. I pried the board with care. The plank lifted with a groan. A folded paper hid in darkness. My hands shook, but I reached. I pulled it into weak light. Edges were burned, brown and torn. Old smoke and earth touched me. I opened it with slow fingers. Shaky English leaned across the page. "If I die, tell them it was Boone." My blood cooled in one heavy wave. I stared at the scarred beam. I heard the rope in memory. "Naomi," I whispered, "I hear you." Truth pressed on me like stone. I folded the paper and breathed. I will not keep this secret. I put it safe in my coat. I saddled up in thin rain. The road to town looked narrow. Night still sat on the hills. I rode toward the church door. Water ran like threads past boots. I tied the reins and went in. Warm lamplight framed Reverend Cole's smile. "Brother Luke, you found peace yet?" "I found truth," I said low. I set the letter on wood. "Please read," I said again. He opened it with careful hands. His smile died before the name. He looked at me, then down. "You do not understand this past. Then help me understand today." He pushed the paper back, slow. "Let it rest," he almost pleaded. "Justice is not our road now." Heat rose fast inside my chest. "Justice is every road I walk. This courage is not wise, son. That wisdom smells like fear, Reverend." He stiffened and lifted his chin. "Boone keeps this town from fire. Boone lit the fire inside me." I tapped the name with one finger. The girl named him. Hear her. Words can hurt more than bullets. Silence kills faster than bullets, too. He sighed and shut both eyes. "Take your paper and go home." Home felt like a grave today. I took the letter and stood. "Did you bury her with prayer?" He opened his eyes in pain. I said words above the grave. "Then say words for the living." He turned his face from mine. "Our river already carries much sorrow. Will the river carry this truth?" He offered no answer or hope. The clock hammered the quiet room. I folded the page against my heart. "Naomi, I keep my promise now. You walk a hard road," he said. "I walk where her voice calls." I stepped outside into pale light. Rain washed dust from the steps. The bell rang one lonely time. I stood under eaves and thought about her name. Fear tried to tie my hands. Courage shivered like a small fire. Toby and Clay laughed near the store. They looked over and grinned wide. "Found peace yet, Luke?" Toby called. "Only truth," I answered without smiling. "Truth costs money," Clay shouted back. "Truth costs blood," I answered softly. They turned away, still grinning hard. I felt alone but not lost. I had her letter and name. Boone would hear her last voice. I went to the post office. I bought brown twine and wax. I sealed the page in oilskin. I pressed the wax with my ring. The mark looked rough but honest. I wrote a copy by hand. My lines shook, yet they held. I kept the copy for safety. The first went back in my coat. I breathed deep and faced the road. Morning climbed the clouds like smoke. The river smell drifted on wind. I tasted iron like old blood. "Forgive my delay," I told the rain. "Forgive my fear and my silence. I will bring your name justice." The words felt steady and clean. I saddled up and turned for town. My horse pawed the mud and snorted. We moved past the churchyard fence. Graves leaned like tired shoulders in rain. I touched the letter through cloth. I felt its heat and weight. I rode back to the stable. Smoke still clung to blackened beams. Pain rose, but I did not stop. I lifted the plank near the stall. I slid the copy into the gap. I hammered the nail back down. If I fall, truth stays here. I pressed my palm to the wood. Warmth spread like a tender fire. Wind pushed rain across the yard. I saw her grave by the fence. Tears blurred the grass and stones. I will speak your name today. Boone will hear it in daylight. The reverend will hear it too. The sheriff will hear it also. I wiped my face with my sleeve. I touched the scar on the beam. I felt the rope inside memory. I heard her voice in the rain. "Go," she said, "and be brave." "I go," I said, "and I speak." I mounted and turned toward Main Street. The road glistened like a cold snake. My hands tightened around the reins. I rode into morning with purpose. Rain tapped the porch roof like slow drums. I said, "Mara, I need your truth." She whispered, "You should not be here." I said, "I could not sleep tonight." She said, "You should not have bought it." I said, "I paid 3 cents for home." She asked, "Do you carry the letter now?" I said, "I found it under the floor." She breathed out. Her hands trembled beside mine. She said, "Then you found the buried voice." I asked, "Whose voice lives on this paper?" She said, "Naomi's voice. She wrote before death." She said, "Naomi, Whitebird. She worked here." I said, "I buried her behind the stable." She asked, "You buried her alone, in rain?" I said, "Yes, I promised a quiet grave." She said, "I promised wages." Elias broke it. I said, "He promised money, then called her thief." She said, "He kept silver, then blamed her." I said, "I saw a bracelet with your mark." I asked, "Why did Sheriff Dade take her?" She said, "He served Elias, not justice or God." I said, They hanged her without a hearing. She said, they said she ran. They lied. I said, yeah, did you see the rope burn? She said, I saw the mark. I saw blood. I said, I want justice. Maybe revenge too. She stepped closer. Revenge burns the one holding it. I said, peace feels like a lie now. She touched my hand. Her fingers were cold. She said, I wanted to help. I failed. I said, tell me everything. Tell me slowly. She leaned on the rail and breathed steadily. She said, Naomi came in spring, thin and quiet. I listened while rain slid off wood. She said she cleaned rooms. She cooked simple meals. I said, did Elias pay as promised? She said, he paid late. He paid with names. I said, what names? She winced and spoke low. She said, thief, savage, trouble. He loved power. I said, why accuse her of stealing silver? She said, he lost money at cards and lied. I said, so he hid shame behind her. She said, yes. He feared the town's judgment. I said, and Dade took her. No questions. She said, he said order. He meant control. I said, peace without truth is a grave. She said, I begged Dade. He slammed the door. I said, where was Reverend Cole in this? She said, he said pray. He said forgive pain. I said, forgive who? The dead or living? She said, he meant me. He meant silence. I said, this town loves silence and fear. She said, silence kept food on our table. I said, silence also fed ropes and graves. She said, burn the letter. Save yourself, please. I said, this letter breathes. It will not burn. She said, Elias will come if you speak. I said, let him come. I know his secret. She said, I live with him. I fear him. I said, you can leave. I will help. She said, where would I go with shame? I said, I will pay. I will work. She said, I still have hands and courage. I said, then I will carry both. She said, I ask one thing. Speak straight. I said, I will tell truth even if it cuts. I said, I want both. I want her voice. She said, voices return when men listen hard. I said, I am listening. I will keep, she asked. Keep what? Letter or promise? I said, both. Promise and letter stay close. She said, then face Elias and Dade openly. I said, I will face them at dawn. I said, I broke before. I still stand. She said, you stand, but you bleed inside. I said, blood dries. Truth stays. I speak. She said, if you fail, they will burn you. I said, they already burned my sleep and peace. She said, I fear fire most during night. I said, I fear the grave even more. She looked toward town and lowered her head. She said, promise you will not kill him. Silence grew heavy. My jaw ached with choice. I said, I promise to seek justice, not blood. She said, justice is slow. Men turn cruel waiting. I said, then I will wait and walk. I said, believe action, not these small words. She said, will you bury the rope and blame? I said, I will hold the rope and truth. She said, then hear the last hard thing. She said, Elias tied the knot himself. I said, you saw his hands in that night? She said, I saw his hands. I heard her. I said, what were Naomi's final words? She said, tell the river. I whispered, Naomi, I will tell the river. Mara nodded. Tears fell onto my hands. I said, your tears are the first kindness. She said, then carry them with her name. I said, I will carry her to water. She said, go before the sheriff hears. I said, he will hear me at morning. She said, take the back road. Avoid lamps. I said, I will ride slow and think. She said, leave the letter here tonight. I pulled back. No, I cannot do that. She said, he searches my room for secrets. I said, then I keep it near heart. She said, keep it safe. Keep your promise. I said, I will. I will stand true. She said, if you fall, remember my courage. I said, your courage lit my dark stable. I said, thank you for this confession. I said, hope will walk with me now. I said, Naomi, I heard you. I will act. I sat in the dark stable and waited. The night pressed on my chest. I heard the beam creak above me. I whispered, I am home now. The horse snorted and stamped once. I said, "Easy, boy, we are safe." The creak came again, long and slow. I felt rain in the old wood. I smelled smoke that was not here. I said, "This is my fear talking." A soft voice moved like wind. It said, "You promised me truth." I dropped the cup on the floor. Whiskey ran across the dirt. The horse watched me with calm eyes. I said, "I hear you, but stop." Silence grew wide and heavy. My hands shook like winter leaves. I drank and tried to forget. I said, "I need quiet now." The beam answered with a mournful groan. I touched the rope mark in rafters. Old fire lived in that wood. My breath tasted of smoke and rain. I said, "I paid money for peace." The voice said, "You paid to remember." I stepped back and hit the stall. The horse tossed his head and snorted. I whispered, "Forgive me for weakness." The voice came nearer to me. It said, "You made a promise, Luke." I said, "I know I did." I felt a cold hand on me. It rested on my right shoulder. My legs wanted to run outside. I did not move or cry. I said, "Tell me what you want." The hand lifted, and the air thinned. I saw a shadow near the trough. It knelt with bowed head and grief. I knew her shape at once. I said, "Naomi, I am here." The shadow turned without a face. It said, "Truth, not more whiskey now." I put the bottle on the shelf. I said, "I will listen tonight." The wind pushed rain through gaps. Drops beat time on the roof. My memory walked a hard road. I saw the day I lied. I told the sheriff I saw nothing. I told the town I felt nothing. I told myself I owed nothing. The shadow said, "Your voice hid justice." I said, "My courage died that day." It said, "Your silence hurt me again." I felt tears rise, sharp and hot. I said, "I wanted simple peace." It said, "Peace cannot live with secrets." I said, "I will speak tomorrow." It said, "Not tomorrow, speak now." I said, "The sheriff will lock me." It said, "Fear is your true jailer." I sat by the trough and listened. The horse leaned close and sighed. His breath calmed my shaking hands. I touched his mane and waited. I said, "I will tell the truth." The shadow bent closer to hear. I said, "The letter is safe." I hid it under the floorboard. I kept it when fire came. I kept it when night screamed. I kept it though my hands bled. The shadow said, "Then speak and live." I said, "Elias Boone hanged you. He paid the sheriff with silver. He said you stole his bracelet. He said your blood would clean town." The shadow said, "And Reverend Cole." I said. He blessed the rope quietly. He said law must make examples. He said sin must burn away. The shadow rose like a river. It said their names must meet daylight. I said, "I will bring daylight soon." It said soon is another weak promise. I faced the mirror on the post. The cracked glass held my ghost. I saw her standing behind me. She watched me like a tired mother. I said, "I am tired too." She said, "Then stop running tonight." I said, "I ran because of pain." She said, "Pain runs harder than you." I said, "Teach me how to stand." She said, "Stand like a grave marker." She said, "Stand for truth and justice." I said, "Show me how to start." She said, "Start by saying my name." I said, "Naomi Whitebird, forgive me." She said, "Ask for forgiveness with courage." I said, "I will carry your voice. I will carry it to town. I will walk that road sober. I will speak before all men. I will read the letter aloud. I will give back the bracelet. I will face the sheriff smiling. I will not drink tonight." The mirror held my wet face. Tears cut lines through dust. I breathed and steadied my hands. The rain slowed and the roof hushed. The beam did not creak again. I said, "Thank you for staying." The shadow faded like early dawn. It left a hush in the stall. The horse relaxed and closed eyes. I sat until the night softened. I heard the river beyond town. It sounded like a brave heartbeat. I said, "Tomorrow starts right now." I poured the whiskey on dirt. It shone like false gold. I said, "I choose truth tonight." The wind moved the stable door. It opened and showed the road. I stepped outside with careful feet. The rain washed fear from me. I said, "I am not haunted. I am the one who haunted me." I walked back in and smiled. I whispered, "Naomi, I will keep promise." The voice did not answer now. It did not need to answer. I lay on straw and rested. Sleep came like a slow river. I said, "I will hold courage tonight. I will carry her truth like fire. My home will hear her voice and remember always." I rode into town with the letter and bracelet. I kept hearing the rope creak. I told myself, "Be brave." I tied my horse at the rail. Folks stared at me. I held the letter tight. The silver warmed my palm. I walked to the sheriff's office. "Sheriff Dade," I said, "I need a hearing." He chewed and smiled. "You again," he said. "Go home, cowboy." I stood my ground. "A girl died in my stable." He shrugged. "Not our business now." "It is my business," I said. "She wore this." I showed the bracelet. His eyes flicked once. Then he laughed. "You think people care?" he said. She was Apache. Let it go. My chest burned. Her name was Naomi, I said. She worked for Boone. 2 cowhands leaned in. Hear this hero talk, one said. He loves ghosts, the other said. They laughed. Call a hearing, I said. Read this letter. He pushed the paper back. No hearing, he said. No time. Something snapped inside me. Then read it yourself. He stood. Boy, I said no. I will read it outside. We stepped into the street. People gathered fast. Saloon doors swung open. I raised the letter high. Listen, I said. These are her words. The sheriff barked, shut your mouth. I read, clear. If I die, tell them it was Boone. The street went quiet. Sheriff Dade moved toward me. You lie, he said. That scrap is fake. I held my ground. This is her hand. He shoved my chest. Put it away, he said. I did not move. I promised her truth. He swung without warning. My hat flew. Fight! Someone yelled. I wiped blood from my lip. He swung again and missed. I answered with one punch. His nose cracked. He stumbled back, stunned. Blood poured like rain. Some cheered. Arrest him! Someone yelled. The sheriff grabbed my collar. He slammed me down. Cold iron cuffs bit skin. You like justice? He said. Try a cell. He dragged me to the jail. He threw me in a cell. He locked the door. He stood outside the bars. You want a trial? He asked. You had your show. I held the bars and stared. You fear the letter, I said. He wiped his nose. I fear nothing, he growled. I whispered. You fear truth. He left me with silence. Night fell. I sat with the letter. I held the bracelet tight. Boots clicked in the hole. A key turned outside. Elias Boone stepped into view. His smile cut like glass. You made trouble, he said. You want justice? He whispered. You will die before sunrise. I stood and faced him. Then I die speaking truth. You should have burned it, he said. You should have stayed quiet. I raised the bracelet. This says your name. He laughed without joy. Names are cheap, he said. Life is not. I stepped close to the bars. She worked for you. Why? He looked past my face. Town needs peace, he said. Peace needs order. Order killed her, I said. He sighed. The sheriff made the call. I watched his hands tremble once. You tied the rope, I said. He did not answer. Men get hurt by truth, he said. So do towns. I breathed steady. Truth already hurts me, I said. He leaned close to the bars. You think truth is enough? It is all I have, I said. It will be enough. He looked at my split lip. You think they will listen? He asked. They will laugh at you. I smiled despite blood. They laughed today, I said. But they also heard. He stepped back. You are stubborn, he said. Stubborn men die early. I lifted the letter up. I will die honest, I said. You will live afraid. He stared at the bracelet. Give it back, he said. It is mine. It is hers, I said softly. It will hang on my wall. His face twitched. You are making enemies, he said. They ride at night. I nodded and stood firm. Let them ride, I said. I will still speak. He slid the key in the lock. He opened the door halfway. Walk out, he said, smiling. Run while you can. I looked at the open door. No, I said. I stay. He closed it again. You are a fool, he said. A loud fool. I sat on the cot. I was a coward once. He turned to leave. Dawn will come, he muttered. Pray it is kind. I closed my eyes and breathed. I pictured the river and home. I heard the rope in memory. I heard Naomi say, promise. I opened my eyes again. I promise, I whispered back. I will not stop. Boots passed in the street. I counted slow with each breath. I held the letter like fire. I held the bracelet like hope. The night did not win. I waited for dawn with courage. I stepped out as the deputy unlocked me. Smoke hit my face like a fist. He said, go home and be quiet. I said, I have no home left. He shrugged. Then buy one with silence. I already paid, I said. With promise. I ran when the bell started screaming. The back stable! Someone yelled behind me. My stomach dropped like a cut rope. I pushed harder and reached the alley. Heat rolled over me like hard water. Flames climbed the stable boards like snakes. I heard a plank split and groan. That sound sliced open my memory. A boy grabbed my sleeve and begged. "Stay back, mister. It will fall." "I can't," I said. "She waits inside." He saw my eyes and let go. I soaked a coat in the trough. I threw it over my head. I kicked the door and went in. I crawled low and felt burning straw. "Let her first," I told myself, coughing. Then the marker. Then breathe. The far wall waved like red water. My hand found the tack box corner. The lid scorched my palms and stung. I kicked once and tore it open. There lay the folded, smoke-stained letter. I pressed it flat to my chest. "Stay with me," I whispered, shaking. A beam shrieked and then dropped fire. Sparks sprinkled across my shoulders and hair. I beat them out with my sleeve. I kept moving toward the rear. The cedar cross leaned where I left it. I touched the carving and felt calm. "Come," I said. "We go together." The doorway blew outward with heat. I heard Clay shouting from the yard. "Luke, get out!" "You crazy fool!" "I'm almost done," I shouted back. He cursed and beat the wall with water. The roof groaned like an animal dying. I lifted the cross and turned. The rope hung dark from the beam. My chest clenched and then steadied. This is the throat of the lie. I climbed the manger and reached up. The fibers burned into my hands. I pulled until the beam released it. The rope dropped like a killed snake. I wrapped it tight against my wrist. "You come with me," I told it. "You owe me truth and courage." The side door stuck against fallen boards. I set my shoulder and kicked twice. It opened into a blast of sparks. I stumbled out, coughing hot air. Water hissed across the blazing wall. Clay grabbed my shoulders and shook me. "Are you trying to die tonight?" "I promised her," I said, still coughing. He saw the rope and went quiet. He stepped aside without more talk. Toby ran over, face gray with ash. "Drop that thing," he said, shaking. "It belongs to fire, not you." "It belongs to truth," I told him. "It killed her and kept talking." Toby looked down and backed away. The roof folded and threw up sparks. I pressed the letter to my ribs. My courage rose through smoke and pain. I felt ready, cold and steady. Hoofbeats came slow from the ridge. A lone rider cut the red light. Elias Boone sat easy on his horse. He waited like a banker counting breath. He rode down and the crowd parted. Then his gaze settled on my hands. "Let it go, Luke," he said. "Fire cleans what should stay forgotten." I walked toward him with the rope. Boone's eyes narrowed like shutters in wind. "Why chase ghosts?" he asked, voice smooth. "Because silence kills," I said, holding steady. "Because I paid 3 cents for truth." People stared, unsure, breathing smoke and doubt. "Sheriff told you to keep quiet," he said. "Sheriff sells quiet," I answered without blinking. Boone smiled, cold. "You want to hang me? I want you to face your own rope." He glanced at the church and the ashes. "Careful, Luke," he said. "You're making enemies." "I already was one," I said. "To lies. You sold me a grave for pennies. You sold me silence wrapped in lies." He smiled a tired smile. "You bought a bargain, not a sermon." "I bought a promise," I answered back. "And I will pay it complete." I raised the rope so he saw. "This is yours," I said, steady. He glanced at Sheriff Dade and back. Dade stared at the dust like fog. Boone sighed. "Careful. You look angry." "I look awake," I said. "Finally." He leaned close and lowered his voice. "What do you think to do?" "I plan to return your property." "Where?" he asked, pretending kindness. "Your porch," I said. "Your beam. Your night and your clean hands." Boone laughed once, thin as glass. "Go home. Sleep off the smoke." "I don't sleep with lies anymore." He noticed the letter in my shirt. His smile cracked like dry mud. "You think ink can hurt me?" Words change breath. "Rope ends breath. Don't ride this road," he warned. "It ends with you in dirt." I already crawled from that grave. I turned and reached my saddle. Clay whispered, "You can't fight them alone." "I won't," I said. "Truth rides me." I tied the rope to my horn. I slid the cross behind my bedroll. I touched the letter one more time. Boone called, "This is your last chance." I had none, I said, mounting up. Only courage, pain, and promise. I stepped onto Boone's porch in cold rain. "My 3 cents bought a stable," I said. "A grave." He opened the door and tried to smile. "You came late," he said. "Ride home now." "I found the rope in ashes," I said. Mara stood behind him and shook her head. "Please go," she whispered. He will hurt you. I am done with fear, I said. I want truth. I want a name, I said. Say hers. I dropped the rope on the porch boards. Boone stared and lost his smile. That is not mine, he said. No proof. It fits your hand, I said. And your lies. The law stood with me, he said. Ask Sheriff. Then the Reverend, he said. He blessed peace. Mara covered her mouth and cried. Stop, she begged. Please, Elias, stop. Boone pushed her back with 2 fingers. You go inside, he said. Men will talk. I will talk, I said. I speak for her. Who? He asked, though he knew the name. Naomi, I said. Whitebird, the girl you hanged. Wind moved the rope and made a creak. Boone tried to step over the coil. I set my boot on it and waited. Not another step, I said. Speak truth. You are drunk, he said. You made this up. I tasted smoke, I said. I carried her bones. I run this town, he said. I keep it clean. You cleaned with blood, I said. I paid the bill, a store boy called out from the crowd. Sir, he asked, what did he do? He sold me death, I said. He sold it cheap. Mara caught my sleeve and shook hard. Luke, she said, I tried to help. I know, I said. Your tears told me. She stole nothing, Mara said. He made it up. Boone slapped the frame and cursed. She was a thief, he said. She shamed my house. She was hungry, I said. You starved her hope. People whispered hope across the muddy road. The town leaned toward me in rain. Boone saw their faces and went pale. You judge me now? He said. You perfect? I judged myself first, I said. I lived with fear. Fear is wise, he said. Fear keeps order. Fear kills truth, I said. Truth needs courage. I protected families, he said. I saved the church. You protected money, I said. You saved your name. Take the rope, I said. Show them your work. I did what I had to, he said. What did you do? I asked, voice low. I kept the town safe, he said. Kept order. Say it plain, I said. Say the ugly word. He stared at the street and sighed once. I hanged her, he said. I hanged the Apache. Silence fell heavy on the road. Mara fell to her knees on the boards. God help us, she cried. God see us. Why? I asked. Tell them why you did it. She refused my rules, he said. Broke peace. She broke your power, I said. She said no. I spoke for the church, he said. Reverend agreed. You spoke for yourself, I said. He hid his hands. Will you hang me now? He asked. Fix pain. I brought no tree, I said. Only a mirror. I pointed to the rope near our feet. Look at it, I said. It remembers your hands. Thunder rolled and horses stamped in fear. Mara touched the rope with shaking fingers. I watched them take her, she said. I did nothing. You can do something now, I said. Tell truth. He ordered it, she said. He told the sheriff. Liar, Boone yelled, though his voice shook. You begged me, she said. You said stay quiet. Boone slid down the door and sat. Tears ran into his beard. I was weak, he said. The town wanted peace. I wanted peace too, I said. Peace without blood. You cannot change the past, he said. It is done. I cannot, I said. But I can name it. I raised the rope and held it out. Take it, I said. Carry your choice in daylight. He reached for it with shaking hands. No, Mara said. Let him keep empty hands. The boy spoke again, voice small. Sir, he asked, is he going to jail? The law failed, I said. We must not. Sheriff Dade limped from the crowd and stared. His nose sat crooked and purple. You heard him, I said. He gave the words. The sheriff looked at Boone and then down. I heard, he said. I will write it. You will do more, I said. You stand guard. Dade nodded once and stood beside Boone. I am sorry, Mara said. I hid the letter. I forgive you, I said. Do better with me. Boone hugged himself and would not meet eyes. Are you done? He asked. Will you leave me? I will leave you alive, I said. Live with truth. That is cruel, he said. I woke before sunrise and packed the urn. My hands shook but stayed steady enough. I told my horse, easy, friend, we go to the river. The road felt long, but I went. Cold air cut my face and memory. I tasted dust and old fear. I carried truth like a hot coal. I thought of the stable fire. I thought of Naomi's quiet voice. At the ridge, I stopped the horse. The river moved like dull steel. Wind pressed my hat and thoughts. I said, I came, like I promised. The urn felt heavy in my bag. I climbed down and tied the reins. Water hissed over dark stones below. I breathed slow and spoke again. I paid only 3 cents, Naomi, but the price was my sleep. I walked the trail to the bank. Footprints waited there before mine. An old man stood by cottonwoods ahead. He turned when he heard my steps. I knew him by the calm eyes. He said, "You are late, rider." I nodded and kept my eyes low. I was blind, Elder Gray Elk. I followed lies and false justice. I carried silence like a grave. He looked at the urn and me. He said, "You carry more now. You carry courage and a hard promise." I said, "I came to ask forgiveness. I came to ask what to do." He pointed to the moving water. The river remembers no single hurt. It does not keep one secret. It takes blood, tears, and ash. It carries them to wide light. I knelt and set down the urn. My knees found cold sand and pain. I whispered, "I am sorry, girl." I held back when truth needed voice. I feared men with money and guns. I feared power and the false church. I feared my own weak heart. Wind ran through reeds like soft rain. The sound filled the old silence. My hands learned how to open. The elder stood near, but spoke gently. "Say her name and your vow." I said, "Naomi, I came as friend. I will watch the weak in town. I will not sell peace for money. I will stand when night grows loud. I will climb when the road rises. I will not trade truth for fear. I will keep your bracelet shining. I will keep the letter safe." He said, "Now give her to River." I pulled the lid with slow care. The ash rose like pale morning smoke. Some clung to my sleeve in memory. I held the urn above the flow. "I release you," I said, shaking. "I release my shame with you. I release hurt that made me numb." I turned the urn and let go. Ash fell and swirled like tiny birds. The current took her without delay. Sun reached the water and bloomed. Silver sparks ran across the skin. I watched them race toward the bend. I heard no cry or broken voice. I heard only water doing its work. Something eased inside my tight chest. I let my breath go at last. Tears came but did not drown me. They washed dust from my eyes. The elder touched my shoulder once. He said, "Go home by noon. Do not stay to worship sadness." 3 cents, I said. I paid 3 cents. Mara stood by the fence. "You rebuilt the stable." "I needed work," I said. "I needed peace, too." "The town noticed," she said. "They kept their distance." "I liked the silence," I said. "It helped me heal." She watched the roof. "You fixed every beam." "I listened to the wood," I said. "It creaked sometimes." "Did it sound like guilt?" she asked. "It did," I said. "Now it sounds like wind," she nodded. "You have courage now." I stood alone. The road hummed. Dust warmed under sun. Home is here, I told myself. I breathed slow. The door opened easy. My horse snorted, calm. I touched the wall. The silver bracelet hung there. "Stay where I can see you," I said. Its shine caught light like a small moon. I remembered her voice. "Tell the truth," she said. "I did," I said. I told them everything. The night after the fire still lived in me. Smoke tasted like iron and old blood. The river washed ash from my hands. Gray Elk said, "Forgive yourself." I tried to obey. Footsteps scuffed outside. 2 boys peeked in. "Mister, is this your place?" one asked. "It is," I said. "I paid money for it." "How much?" he asked. $3? 3 cents, I said. A cheap promise. A heavy cost. They stared at the bracelet. "Whose is that?" "A brave girl's," I said. "She worked. She got hurt." "Did the bad men pay?" the taller boy asked. "Some paid with shame," I said. Some paid with loss. Is the girl still here? The small boy asked. She is in the river now, I said. Free. Was she your friend? He asked. She was my duty, I said. I learned that late. What was her name? I remember, I said. I say it in prayers. They stood quiet. Wind crossed the yard. You can help, I said. Bring nails. They laughed and carried a small tin. We set new planks and smoothed the door. Why fix so much? The small boy asked. So horses feel safe, I said. So people do. Were you afraid here? He whispered. I felt fear, I said. I felt pain and memory. Do you feel it now? I feel peace, I said. I hear only wind. They ran off. Bye, mister! Go slow on the road, I called. Watch rain. The yard grew still. The day bent toward gold. I washed ash from tools and stacked them dry. I hung the rope knot as a warning. It was only a knot now, not a curse. I wrote a short letter and folded it small. I kept my promise, I wrote. Truth had a voice. I set the letter behind the bracelet. I swept the floor. The broom found old dust. I opened a window. River smell came in. I was a coward once, I said. Not today. The sun fell slow. The sky held fire. I fed my horse. He nuzzled my sleeve. Good night, friend, I said. You carried me through flames. I sat on the threshold. The road hushed to silence. Mara came with a lantern. Town meeting tonight. I will not go, I said. I gave them truth. They want you to lead repairs, she said. After the fire. I fix what I own, I said. That is enough. You are different, she said. Your eyes look steady. I dreamed of the grave, I said. But not in fear. What did you see? I saw a river, I said. I saw her smile. Then she forgave you, she said softly. I don't know, I said, but I forgave myself.